We like to drink beer, a lot of it. After a long night of drinking and talking crime and conspiracies, there's nothing that wakes us up and gets us ready to start the day better than Just Brew coffee. With a great selection of roast levels to choose from, you're guaranteed to find one that suits your style. Small batch roasted to highlight the unique features of each coffee bean, Just Brew coffee caters to both casual and hardcore coffee drinkers alike. Since 2010, Just Brew Coffee has worked tirelessly to perfect the roasting process and technique, which has resulted in seriously delicious, always flavorful, and never bitter tasting coffee. If you're already drinking JBC, raise your mug. If you're not, raise your standards. Check them out in social media and remember, they roast, you just brew. Check out their new online store at youjustbrew.com and up your coffee game today. Use code NECRO15 to receive 15% off your order of 2 pounds or more.
Bonus episode. So I gotta be honest, I saw New England and I got really excited that we were either one, going to be talking about the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, the greatest professional athlete of all time, or two,
highly debatable,
New England clam chowder, which is one of my favorite soups of all time.
You brought up Tom Brady before, and
I'm a big Tom Brady fan. Yeah. I'm a big Tom Brady fan. How can you not be? The man's one of the greatest football players of all time.
Well, because we're from Cleveland and fuck Tom Brady.
So we're not even in the same league as Tom Brady. We're not even in the same league yet. We're getting there.
Odell said he's going to make it the new Patriots here in Cleveland.
And 2021, the Cleveland Browns and Cleveland's hosting the NFL draft. They're seeing big things in this city.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, they just announced it today. It'll be at the Rock Hall.
It's the greatest location in the nation, as they say in Cleveland.
Yeah. Even
as
though
we say,
that's not true.
Even though I like the Steelers, I like.
Are you going to edit that out?
So, what are we talking about today?
So today we're gonna get into the New England vampire panic.
And if you're someone like me who had no idea what this was coming into it, do not think of Dracula at all during this episode because it is not the same.
Nope.
No, not really.
No.
Don't get your hopes up. It's still a good, fun story. I just don't want you to be misled going into this one.
So the New England vampire panic was the reaction to tuberculosis outbreaks throughout Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, and parts of New England in the 19th century. At this time, tuberculosis was known as consumption because it appeared to consume a person's body. The infection is highly contagious, so when someone got infected, it spread throughout other family members. And at this time, it was believed that the deceased family member that died had began to drain the life from other family members from the grave. This belief was mainly centered around the New England area and then some parts of Europe.
So, do we think this is religious hysteria? Like, where did this originate from?
It just sounds like a superstitious belief, people trying to figure out why it's so contagious or something along those lines, you know, and they're like, oh, it must be someone coming back.
I guess that makes sense. If they didn't really realize how contagious this disease was, that they're trying to blame it on something. And so that's what they pin it on.
Right.
But how do you come up with that? It's very specific.
Probably people just talking and...
It's really strange, the stuff that people believed way back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
To protect healthy people in the community and in an attempt to heal people infected with tuberculosis, bodies of people who died from the disease were exhumed and examined, which that's just not very smart at all to take a body that's had died from tuberculosis and then bring it out and then start messing around
not
with it,
really.
That's
No.
going to spread it worse.
There's a lot as we go through this story that is not very smart.
No. But yeah, as I was just looking at that, I'm like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. So they got concerned if a body appeared to be in fresh condition, like unusually fresh, like
A corpse that they dug up.
right? If it hadn't decayed very much, it was mainly if the organs were still intact and blood was still in the body. And the organs they were looking at were the heart, liver, and lungs, basically.
And so if they found a body like that was still relatively good condition,
Right.
that's when they would start to think, okay, this might be a vampire.
Right. And we'll get into it a little later too, because the term vampire wasn't known in this area. The term, like the vampire panic, came from media or newspaper outlets outside of this area at this time that heard what was going on there. They didn't even know what a vampire was.
They just thought it was their dead relatives infecting their living relatives.
Right. And then they see a deceased corpse and they're like, or a corpse that hasn't decayed very much, and they're like, oh shit, So the easiest way to remedy the situation was just to turn the body over in the grave and then rebury it, which sounds like superstitious.
Sure.
So scientifically,
no
though, what is the science behind that? Is that just corpses decay at different paces, and some of them are more likely to be fresher longer than others? Is it the oils and things they put on the bodies as they're prepping it for burial?
It could be the time of year too, if it's cold out.
That's true too.
Soil condition.
Yeah.
It could be all kinds of stuff.
Because coffins weren't like insulated or anything at the time. They were probably just wooden,
Right.
just basic wooden boxes.
Are they insulated now?
Yeah.
Is that where we got to with coffins?
You can buy a fancy coffin. It's
You can buy a kiss casket. We've talked about that before.
Yeah. You can buy super fancy ones.
What does insulated do? How long does it keep?
And why would you want that though? Like, I mean, I understand you want it to look nice and maybe like a comfort thing, but like insulation, I don't know why I wouldn't pay extra for that.
I guess if you don't want.
I'm getting cremated. Like, do you guys want to be buried? I want to be cremated.
I've never really
I have no
given
desire
much
to be
thought to
buried.
it.
I'm getting cremated
Yeah,
just for money,
100%.
just for money purposes.
I'm not thinking about money purposes.
I guess
I
I've
just
never
wanna
really
be
considered
cremated.
it. I don't know.
I'm not leaving that expense for other people. It's too expensive,
You're a
man.
swell guy.
Yeah.
You're a swell
You
individual.
are a small guy.
Just burn me and just throw me
What
up
about
into
the
the air.
new body composting they just approved in Washington State? I think that's pretty cool.
I didn't see that.
Just
you can
throw you
just-
out in a garden.
Yeah, or you can just be composted, which makes the most sense, right?
Sure. I mean, if that's what you want, I'm
bury you
not,
in a shallow
I'm not here
grave?
to say what people should do to you when that time comes. But if that's what you want to do, great, go for it.
Cemeteries are a waste of time, are they not? A waste of space, a
I
waste
don't
of green
know.
space, a
I
waste
don't
of
know.
resources.
I don't know. I think people who want to go visit their loved ones, it's very important to them. I don't know if I would call them a waste of space, but I understand what you're saying. Like, they're there, and then what happens? And they're just there forever, and we can never touch
I like
that
this
land.
composting idea. I'm gonna look more into it.
All right. Get back to us then. Maybe that'll be
I
official.
might get composted.
You're gonna get composted.
Even cremation's expensive.
Yeah.
Maybe just not even claim my body. Just
Dave,
just leave me.
Put you out in the front lawn.
Just say I don't know that person. Fuck it. Just leave him.
Just
there.
throw you out there so someone could just trapaculate in your skull.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's not that expensive, is it? Let's take you out in the trash, chop you up in the front yard,
Yeah.
put you in the cans.
No problem.
Give
Black
me the
garbage bags.
Give me the Burdella treatment. Just dismember me and put me out for the trash.
Yeah, he got away with it.
So yeah, like I was saying, the easiest way to take care of it would be to turn the body over and just rebury it. In more ritualistic cases, families would burn the fresh organs and decapitate the corpse before reburying it. Infected family members would inhale the smoke from the burning organs or eat the ashes in an attempt to cure tuberculosis.
Eat the ashes. Eat the ashes.
Yep.
Fuck that.
Well, inhaling it too is
All the
disgusting.
above, but eating it just seems worse.
Just seems like it's going to get you sicker.
I mean, smoking your dead friend seems a little better than, I don't know. Eating the ashes.
Dave, would you like us to smoke you when you die?
I'd rather you smoke me than eat a concoction of my ashes.
You ever? What's that show that was on TLC with people that ate weird shit?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
My Strange Addiction.
Yeah, it wasn't just eating; it was just addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the guy liked to fuck his car. I saw that. He loved it. He was in love with his car.
Like
He had
open the
sex
gas
with his
tank
car.
and boom,
Yeah,
yeah.
he had sex with his car. That's fucking
In the
ridiculous.
tailpipe, boom,
Yeah, he said boom.
and boom goes the dynamite. We need that clip.
There was a woman on there that would eat her husband's ashes. She would just carry his urn around and
Like
eat the
sprinkle
ashes.
it on her like Cheerios in the morning.
She would just dip her finger in and eat the ashes.
Oh.
I can't. She thought. I don't know what she thought. Like if he was becoming part of her, something. She believed that.
That is.
She became obsessed with it and was just. Yeah, she would just walk around holding it.
Well, when someone gets cremated, it's not really ash. I mean, there's bone fragments in there, too.
And there's other people in there too.
Yeah, there's just a concoction of bone and ash.
and leftover ash from
Yeah,
the
of
guy
course
before.
Of course there is.
This is the closest I've ever come to puking on this show. Is this moment right now?
That put from what is it? Trypan ejaculation?
Trapaculation.
Trapaculation?
No, this.
Because she had to lick her finger first to get the ashes to stick on there. You can't just put a dry finger in there.
So what happened with these family members of the tuberculosis patients?
Like we were talking about before, that they didn't have this term there. The claims that these deceased family members actually becoming what we would consider traditional vampire was made by newspapers outside of the area. The word vampire wasn't known to people in this area, and there's no credible accounts that people actually believe that these that their dead family members were actually leaving the grave to prey on people.
Well, so what did they think then? It was supernatural?
Yeah.
Sounds like it. And also, what time was this? They didn't know the term vampire at this time
Not in this area.
in this area. All right.
It wasn't a
I mean,
term.
that's an Eastern European term. So I don't think it's something that the people in New England wouldn't be familiar
I guess
with.
not. I was trying to think about when the time was. So yeah. So I guess sounds like it's supernatural. Like from beyond the grave, they're taking they're haunting and what stealing their life,
Yeah.
their blood.
So they're not physically getting out of the grave. They're telepathically
I mean,
doing this
allegedly,
stuff?
from what we're learning here.
Yeah. Like maybe their spirit. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we go through some documented cases. The first one is Rachel Harris from Manchester, Vermont. This is one of the earliest accounts. Rachel Harris had died from tuberculosis in 1790. A year after her death, her husband married her stepsister named Hulda. Hulda began to show signs of tuberculosis, and the family believed that it was that Rachel was to blame for it.
Well, it probably was. She's like, that's my man.
Jerry.
Yeah, he didn't wait very long. Only a year.
A year? That's a long time.
Yeah? I don't know. I guess I never thought about that. I don't know.
Like you can bang your sister or your sister-in-law after a year. I don't know.
I can't speak to what it would be like to lose a spouse that I don't know how quick you'd recover from that, let alone bang or what is it, stepsister?
Yeah.
Oh, stepsister?
Stepsister.
Oh, that's not even. That's a 2-month thing.
All right.
That's not even her sister.
All right.
2 months.
I'm just saying I don't think within 2 months I'd be able to do that. To wed somebody
You
2
could
months.
probably bang the stepsister at the funeral.
Well, we're not talking about
If we're being
banging.
honest.
We're not talking about banging here. Oh boy.
You guys should remember who listens to this podcast when it first comes out.
Sorry, ladies. I apologize.
So Hulda.
Yeah, it's, in February.
Hulda didn't say hold up.
She did not.
In February 1793, Rachel's corpse was exhumed and her liver, heart, and lungs were burnt. There are other accounts that some of Rachel's organs were actually used to make a medicine for Hulda, and Hulda died that September.
That's weird. It didn't work.
Say.
Did he go on to the next sister, or
I don't
no
know.
further information is available? Okay.
Okay.
Then we go to Abigail Staples from Cumberland, Rhode Island.
She founded the Staples stores, right? Yeah.
Long lineage.
Yeah. The office supply stores. Back then, there were the feather pens and the scrolls
Yeah.
they sold.
February 1796, Stephen Staples exhumed his 23-year-old daughter's corpse named Abigail. Abigail had previously died from tuberculosis, and now her sister Lavinia had started to show symptoms of the disease. Lavinia started to tell stories of dreams that she was having where the shadow of a person would sit on her chest and draw out her breath.
That sounds like sleep paralysis.
Yeah, it does.
Or a dream.
Yeah, but that's the same definition of the sleep paralysis. That's what they say.
Yeah.
That there's a dark figure sitting on their chest and they can't breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen went to the town officials, which I guess would be like their, I don't know, their government or whatever. But yeah, he went to the town officials and they agreed to allow Abigail's corpse to be exhumed. And then that's where the story stops for that one.
Can you imagine thinking this?
It's something else.
It is wild.
Real quick, before you jump in the next one, what is exhumed? What's the definition of exhumed?
It just takes them out.
Just open
Just
the-
take them out and open. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
And the next one is the Spalding family from Dummerston, Vermont. Sometime in the 1790s, Leonard Spalding lost 11 of his children to tuberculosis.
Did they have rubbers in the 1790s? Because it seems like that's what they needed.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when the condom was developed.
I have no idea.
11 children.
We better get to Google while you're talking. Go ahead, Ian.
And that's not the only kids he had, because another one of his daughters started to show symptoms, and the body of the most recently deceased child was dug up and the vital organs removed and burned.
1839
All right. So
by Charles Goodyear.
we're pre-rubber here.
Maybe that Charles Goodyear also used that rubber to invent Goodyear tires.
I'm sure that's the case.
So another belief that people had was that vines would start growing in between the caskets, and when they connected, it would start to pass tuberculosis through. So when Spalding had another son die, who was named Reuben, in 1794, his casket was buried apart from the other family members to like break this chain of vines.
Oh, that probably worked.
Yeah. So this guy had 13 kids at least.
Jesus.
So they practiced the pull-out method. You pull the baby out and then you immediately impregnate her again.
It sounds about right.
Yeah, because people didn't live very long back then.
Yeah.
So again, and we have no follow-up on any of these stories.
No, these are just
what people did to try to stop
Yeah.
the spread of the disease or
Right.
the illness, but in their minds, the quote vampire.
Yeah, and these are the only accounts of it.
Look, we're no different now. We still have religious kooks that speak in tongues and think that, God sends hurricanes because of gay marriage. So we're no better off 200 years later.
So somebody will do a podcast about that one day, maybe.
Hundreds of
About what preachers are saying nowadays and hurricanes taking out homosexuals and all that.
Yeah. We go back to Rhode Island with Sarah Tillinghast in Exeter, Rhode Island. Sarah Tillinghast was the first of 14 children to die in her family.
What the fuck? More pull-out method.
When surviving children claim that Sarah continued to visit them at night, which this account, it could just be like, the grieving process, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah,
But-
that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sure.
But by 1799, 5 more of the Tillinghast children had died from tuberculosis.
Wait a minute. That's 19. 14 plus 5.
Yeah.
19. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
And another one was showing signs of the disease.
Wait. Another one?
No, that's part of the 14. She was the first of 14 to die.
Oh,
then
yeah.
years later, 5 more of them died. So now they're down.
Oh, okay.
Now they're down to
All
9
right.
kids.
I'm sorry. I missed
And then there was another one. Who died.
Okay.
So now they're down to 8.
I misread.
Yeah.
You're right.
When the bodies were exhumed, all of them except Sarah's were found to be in advanced stages of decomposition. And then her heart was removed and burned in front of the family home.
So there's that.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah. It's kind of odd that her body would be in good condition. I don't know what would cause that.
Vampirism.
Yeah. Staying in Rhode Island, go to Nancy Young in Foster, Rhode Island. She died at age 19 in 1827, and her sister soon died from tuberculosis. When Nancy's other siblings started to decline in health, their father, Levi Young, asked his neighbors and friends to exhume and burn her remains. And the quote is, while all members of the family gathered around and inhaled smoke from the burning remains.
Oh, can you imagine a scene here?
And then this did not work because 5 more of his kids died.
You don't say.
Joking aside, tuberculosis was it was a motherfucker back then.
Yeah.
It killed a lot of people.
Yeah. So I guess it would cause a panic or,
Yeah. When you don't, you're not familiar with medicine or communicable diseases, you look for things like this and...
Yeah, you got 14 kids dying. You're like, oh, fuck. Like,
must be something.
Yeah, and turn to something, anything to get an answer.
Hey, we're doing a show here, sir.
I'm getting my shit together for the show.
Sir, we're doing a show here.
And go.
18. And then we go to Jewett City, Connecticut. In 1845, Lemuel Ray died of tuberculosis at age 24. His death was followed by his father's a few years later, and then his brother. 3 years later, when his oldest brother, Henry, started showing signs, the family turned to the vampire superstition and exhumed his body and burned it, and then Henry died despite their efforts. Interestingly, an accidental discovery in the 1990s suggested that perhaps the Rays weren't the only region's first vampires. Just a few miles away from the Ray farm, some kids discovered a skull, and then further investigation revealed an unmarked graveyard where 29 bodies were buried. Archaeologists determined that one of the bodies, which showed signs of tuberculosis, had been dug up and reburied with the head removed and face turned down, and the femur bones were arranged on the chest in the shape of a cross. The only marking on this grave was the initials JB. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
That's what I said.
That's what I said also. Guess we find that very interesting. It's a nice little tidbit.
This one, this is the last one. It's back in Exeter, Rhode Island. Mercy Brown. It's probably the most documented one out there, or the most detailed of all of them.
It is famous. From what I read, that Bram Stoker may have been aware of this story when he wrote the Dracula novel.
Oh, really?
So,
that's cool. Yeah, so in 1883, Mercy's mother died from tuberculosis. Then 7 months later, her sister died. And a couple years after that, both Mercy and her brother Edwin started to show signs of tuberculosis. Edwin was sent away to recover, but Mercy soon died. Mercy's father, George, was desperate to save his remaining kids. Though he said he didn't believe in vampires, he gave in and had the family's bodies exhumed. And this is a quote from the Providence Journal, reported on March 21st, 1892.
I just also want to note before we read this that we invited both Country Mike and Nerd Mike up to read this, and both declined invitations because they, quote, both believed very much in this and did not want to fuck with vampires. So they're not available to read this.
Okay.
So I will read it on behalf of them. Dr. Harold Metcalf, the medical examiner of the district who examined the bodies, is not one to believe in the vampire superstition. He made his examination without exceptional results, according to his own belief, but found in one of the bodies, to the satisfaction of many of the people down there, a sign which they regarded as proof. When he removed the heart and liver from Mercy's body, a quantity of blood dripped therefrom. The vampire, the attendants of the doctor said, and then, conforming to the theory of the necessity of destroying the vampire, burned the heart and liver.
Well,
there you go.
So this doctor was getting a little bit convinced here?
Sounds like it.
Is that what we're getting at?
So if you ever listen to the podcast Lore or watch the Amazon Prime show Lore based on the podcast, but this is the first one they did. And it's pretty interesting, this story, this Mercy Brown
really?
story. Yeah.
They did just the Mercy Brown story, or they did
It was the basis of the whole New England vampire story, which was their first episode. It's pretty interesting. They do show them exhuming and burning the heart and making the concoction of the ashes from the burnt heart and having people consume the concoction. But yeah, it's wild.
Well, it's just crazy that the first documented case is from 1793, and then this was still a belief in 1892.
100 years later.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that it stuck around for that long.
And so was it after this that it died off? Like it didn't...
Yeah, there's no other accounts, at least ones that I could find.
It was just a little bit of a craze and like a small urban legend type thing.
Yeah.
I do like vampires, though. What's your favorite vampire movie?
Interview with a Vampire. I don't know any vampire movies.
Twilight.
I like Twilight. I don't dislike Twilight. I thought they were great movies.
What's the Mandela effect on Interview with the Vampire? Is it Interview with a Vampire or Interview with the Vampire?
Interview with the Vampire.
That's the name of the movie.
And the Mandela effect is so ridiculous. We've talked about this before.
Yeah. Dave, now you know how I feel about hypnosis.
We're going to do a
Welcome
whole
to my
episode
club.
on it.
Mandela effect.
Because that Pikachu thing really fucks me up. That's the only one that blows my mind.
Dumb.
I've been thinking Pikachu.
That might be a future bonus episode. We'll do a Mandela effect and Dave will get pissed, and we'll do a hypnosis one and I'll get pissed.
I've been thinking.
Except my belief is actual legitimate.
Yeah, I thought Pikachu had a black tip on his tail ever since 5th grade, and obviously either I slipped through a different dimension somehow, or our dimension shift, or I just don't know what the fuck I'm talking
couldn't
about.
tell you what Pikachu looks like. He's yellow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's about. I don't know much about Pikachu.
Yeah.
He's Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't go through that. We're the same age.
I did not know. Yeah, I was stuck on pro wrestling all throughout that. I was too busy watching Shawn Michaels super kick his way to a world title.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. So favorite vampire movie, Dave? What's the one we like?
We like Let the Right One In.
Let the Right One In is fantastic. That is a great movie.
But Salem's Lot is also my favorite vampire movies.
I don't think I've ever seen that
The
one.
Stephen King novel.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
So great.
All right. Those are Dave's recommendations for the week.
I like the remake of Let the Right One In. The American remake wasn't bad.
It was not bad at all.
Yeah,
I
liked
agree.
it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I liked it.
It wasn't as good as the original.
Wasn't
but
it
it's-
big in
It's
that?
excellent.
That blonde girl that played Carrie in the remake of that movie.
Oh, okay. All right. So she just made a
Bunch of remakes.
bunch of horror
It
remakes.
was called Let Me In, right?
I think.
Let Me
It was
In,
it was named a little different.
Yeah.
Interview with the Vampire is good too.
I actually only saw that once when I was like a little kid.
It was good.
I couldn't tell you much about it.
Yeah, I've watched
But
it a
Let the
couple
Right
times.
One In is by far, I think, the best.
Yeah.
At least of my limited knowledge of what I've seen.
Yeah, and then True Blood went off the rails.
I really liked True Blood when it first came out.
Did you finish it?
A little silly. Oh, yeah.
Did you? I never finished it. I think
Yeah.
I stopped in like season 4. Like when it started going off the rails with getting a little
It was
weird.
a little wild.
Yeah.
I like vampire stuff, though.
Yeah, it's cool. We'll have to do like real life vampires, like people that actually think they're vampires. That'd be a good
Like
episode.
Vlad the Impaler or people like kooks that drink blood?
Yeah, like those
modern
kind of
day?
people.
Okay.
That'd be a good episode.
All right. Anything else on the New England Vampires?
No?
No?
New XFL team coming to a town near you, the New England Vampires.
It'd be a cool name.
That'd be all right. I'd be cool with that. I'd buy some of their shit.
I could see a cool logo and jersey for that. That'd
Hell
be
yeah.
cool.
Maybe they'll get Tom Brady to come coach them when he retires after 19 Super Bowl wins.
Anyway.
All right. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We are at Necronomipod. Please hit us up. If you are on iTunes, rate us, leave us a review. We really love reading the reviews. We've had some pretty kick-ass ones recently. Leave us a rating. That goes a long way to helping us get noticed by other people as well. So we really appreciate anything you guys can do to help us out with that. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys Sunday.
Cheers.